The member's time has expired.
Mr Speaker.
I call Matt Ducey.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. It's a pleasure to rise in support of this very important bill, the Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf Environmental Effects Transitional Provisions Amendment Bill. And Mr Speaker, as I rise to speak to this bill and I reflect on what I've heard through the second reading, and Mr Speaker, I've heard it all. Mr Cunliffe, in his second reading, said this legislation, this bill, was a pooper scooper. And that just reflects how irresponsible this opposition is, Mr Speaker, because this bill reflects things that are important to New Zealanders, Mr Speaker, the environment and the economy. And this national government cares. It cares about the environment and it cares about the economy. And that's why New Zealanders, everyday New Zealanders, trust us. They trust us to care about protecting the environment, and they trust us to care about supporting the growth of our economy. And I think that demonstrated very clearly in September last year who they trusted. They trusted this national government. So, Mr Speaker, in this speech, I want to touch on a few key things that happened through the process that take us up to the second reading. I must say, as a new MP following this bill through, it's been a very informative and a learning process of seeing this bill go through the first reading, go back to the Select Committee, hearing the submissions, and the learning from that, the discussions across the table, and the very collegial decision-making that has formed a very smart piece of legislation. So I want to touch on, Mr Speaker, the flexibility of Section 162 and how that is key to ensuring that there is investment certainty and business continuity to the sector. Also want to touch on the consequences that if we do not get this bill right, how that will play out in New Zealand. Also want to talk about the specified timeframes for applying for a marine consent and how very much that is important to this whole bill. So, Mr Speaker, if we look at the consequence of not getting this bill correct, we know through the regulatory impact statement that if Shell Todd Oil was ceased to explore and extract gas, it would have a significant impact on New Zealand's economy. We know that they operate at the Maui, which is 26% of New Zealand's gas supply. And we also know they are a big employer in the region of Taranaki, and I have my colleague to the right of me, the very able MP for Taranaki King Country, who her constituents can be rest assured is already making a significant mark in Parliament and in her electorate. We know it is a big employer of 300 people in the region, so very much the gas sector is important to New Zealand's well-being, the well-being of our environment and the well-being of our economy. It is very much the Pareto ratio, Mr Speaker. We know with the Pareto ratio it's 80-20, and 80% of the gas consumed from Maui feeds 20% of sites that include petrochemical, electricity generation, and large industrial users that support our export economy. And every New Zealander knows that it's the export economy that drives the well-being, the wealth and the success of this country forward, and it's something that we need to protect. The regulatory impact statement also clearly outlined in 2011 when Maui, and there was an outage for 5 days. The knock-on effect of that
I'm sorry to interrupt the honourable member. The time has come for me to leave the chair for the dinner break. This debate is interrupted and I shall resume the chair at 7:30.